The year is 2075 in Eastern District 55, once known as Tokyo. This shivering man before us is Io, a lowly supply soldier in the mage army. With a score of just 131, he is stuck at F rank. He wipes away his sweat with a heavy sigh. 35 years old and still nothing but a supply boy. Everything changed 40 years ago when the world first stood on the very brink of destruction. Whether it was climate change or some stupid nuclear war, the true cause remains a mystery, but countless savage monsters suddenly roamed the earth, weird creatures crawling from deep underground to launch brutal attacks on humanity. Humanity fought back with every single weapon they had, but those monstrous creatures possessed strange abilities that made our modern technology completely useless against them. Just when humanity was ready to give up hope, heroes suddenly emerged, the mages. These were warriors wielding ancient, long-sealed magic, who also happened to be absolute masters of the sword. Forget science or modern weapons. These mages were our only true saviors. To fight off the endless horde, countries across the globe began training new mages on a massive scale. Thanks to these highly trained elite mages, the world finally regained its peace. But this left behind a brutal reality, a ruthless, extreme academic meritocracy where only your scores dictate your worth. In this world, if you are not a mage, you are not even seen as human. And honestly, this is where things get incredibly cruel. At the academy, students laugh while Io carries their gear. One arrogant student notices something hidden in Io pants pocket and runs over. He shouts out, "Hey, you supply trash." Then he kicks Io hard and demands that he hand over all of his recovery potions right now. Cruel insults rain down on him, calling him a bottom-tier loser. Io struggles to scramble up and begs, "Please stop. Those are essential supplies for the day after tomorrow." But the bully just snaps back, "Shut up. You are just a bottom-tier supply boy." In truth, at this academy, your entire worth is decided by three things: swordsmanship, magic, and military tactics. Every single job is decided by your rank. At the top are the legendary double S mages, followed by elite S ranks, then A and B ranks, while ordinary humans rot at the very bottom. Sitting alone in a corner, broods in silence. In a world that only worships grades, a dropout like him can never become a mage, destined to remain a lowly supply boy forever. Up on the system board, his pathetic rank is displayed. 131 F rank. He buries his head in his hands, full of self-loathing. If only he had some talent, he could fight to save this world. Suddenly, a panic shout echoes from behind. "Hey, look up at the sky. Monsters are coming." Io looks up in absolute horror. What on earth is that? A massive winged beast holding a blade descends, its wild eyes glaring dangerously. An unidentified monster drops from the sky, causing Pola to scream in panic. These are definitely not normal creatures. He immediately orders his troops, "All forces attack. Wipe out this threat right now." This is Pola, commander of the 55th Legion of the Mage Army, boasting a massive score of 1078, double S rank. But victory will not come easily. Facing an unknown enemy as terrifying as a god of destruction, the elite mage army is left utterly powerless. Io watches in horror as soldiers scream, "That thing is too strong." It is on a completely different level from any underground beast we have ever faced. That unknown enemy wiped out the entire world in just 3 days. Io and his younger sister Luna stand on a high cliff, staring down at the quiet ruins in absolute silence. With worry in her eyes, Luna asks Io, "Is this really the end of the world?" He gently reassures her, "Do not worry, I will protect you." But deep down, his heart is in absolute turmoil. How could he? Could a useless dropout like him actually keep her safe? But she just smiles warmly and says, "As long as I am with you, I will be fine, because you are the kindest person in the world." Stunned by her words, Io's face darkens as he quickly turns away. Luna smiles and head off, telling him, "I am going to search for some food." Left alone, Io clenches his fists in frustration, trembling with self-doubt. What good is kindness when you are weak? He drops to his knees in despair, but suddenly a blood-curdling scream cuts through the air. Recognizing that voice, he spins around with a desperate cry. Luna's eyes are wide with sheer terror, but Io can only watch in frozen horror as a beast bites into her. Blood rapidly spreads across her chest. Desperate, Io charges forward, screaming her name. "Stop! Do not touch my little sister." He grinds his teeth in sheer helplessness. Ever since their parents were murdered by monsters when they were kids, they had fought side by side to survive, even though he was just a useless supply boy. In a desperate move, he unleashes his only skill, pressure. Io fires a burst of raw energy straight at the monster, praying with everything he has, "Please, just work." The monster simply flicks its pinky finger. I mean, how are you even supposed to fight that? Io's desperate attack is shattered as he falls into hopeless despair. Damn it, just as he thought, it is completely useless. As Io panics over his trash skill, a figure suddenly appears from behind. A massive magic circle forms right above the monster. A young man leaps forward, wielding a blade wrapped in powerful energy. Io looks up to see Guzan, who yells out, "I will hold it off. Take your sister and run now." This is Guzan Diamante, a double S rank commander with a score of 1023. Without another word, he spins around and slashes his sword at the beast. Guzan allies arrive quickly to back him up. This is their only shot. Scooping Luna up, Io runs, marveling at Guzan's incredible strength. So this is the power of a legendary double S mage. Looking down at his sister, he cries out, "Luna, please open your eyes." Luna weakly opens her eyes and calls out to him, but a second later she goes completely limp in his arms. Io's eyes widen in horror as he stares at her lifeless face, sobbing uncontrollably as he screams her name. But the tragedy does not stop there. 3 days later, Io kneels before his sister's grave in silence. Clasping his hands, he blames himself, his entire body trembling with helpless regret. It is all my fault. If only he had been a mage, he could have saved her. Suddenly, panicked screams echo from behind. Run away. Io spins around and sees a terrified crowd fleeing for their lives. It is too dangerous here, run. Another monster has appeared in the sky, opening its giant maw to fire a devastating energy blast. Io jumps up in panic, cursing not again. Damn it, he just wanted to build a proper grave for Luna. A massive sphere of energy fires straight at him. With no time to dodge, Io takes a direct hit and screams in agonizing pain. Gritting his teeth against the searing pain, Io gasps for air and struggles to stand up. He barely escaped with his life. Cocking weakly, he pulls a small vial from his pocket, whispering that this is his very last potion. Screams echo all around them as Guzan fights desperately, swinging his sword in the middle of a massive horde. Seeing him, Io shouts out, "Captain Guzan." Io watches in disbelief. Is he really trying to fight them all alone? Guzan unleashes another slash, roaring with absolute determination, "I will never surrender this world to you. I will protect it." Staring at the hero surrounded by beasts, Io can only wonder at his incredible strength. Guzan's sword strikes so fast they leave mere afterimages, but suddenly, Io spots something flying fast toward him and freezes in terror. He screams out a desperate warning, "Watch out," but sharp shards of ice pierce deep into Guzan's body. His eyes roll back as he coughs up fresh blood while the beast eyes glow, ready to devour its prey. Guzan is critically wounded, with blood pooling heavily on the ground from his chest. He gasps for air, completely exhausted. Io runs over, holding out his last vial and pleading, "Captain Guzan, please drink this." But Guzan refuses, telling him to drink it instead. He looks at Io and insists, "Your life is far more important to this world. Every life is equal, and exam scores do not mean a thing." Io protests immediately, crying out in helplessness, "But you are so much stronger than me. I wanted to become a powerful mage just like you. If I was, I could have saved Luna." But he only sees Guzan's expression turn deeply sorrowful. "I am not strong. I could not even save Aya, the woman I loved." Hearing this, Io freezes in place, his mind going completely blank. I realized that Guzan had also lost his loved ones to nameless enemies. Suddenly, Guzan raised his hand and said, "I leave this to you." He handed the wristband to Ito, telling him, "Ito, you absolutely must protect this world." "I know you can do it," Guzan insisted. This left Ito absolutely terrified. Me? He could not stop doubting himself, thinking that such a task was completely impossible. Guzan insisted that Ito was indeed the only one who could do it. Right then, a massive shadow loomed over them as a giant beast closed in. Ito quickly stood up and screamed, "Run, I will hold it back." A blinding light erupted from the giant beast. Gritting his teeth, Ito questioned himself, "What kind of magic is this? Is this the end?" Right then, Guzan raised his hand to unleash his ultimate spell, Reversal. Ito closed his eyes, accepting his fate. "Luna, I am coming to join you," he thought. And then, get ready for this, a bright flash erupted, slowly fading into a dull gray. When Ito opened his eyes again, he was somehow young. He looked around, completely confused about his location. Students were chatting loudly all around him. Ito stood there in a total daze, unable to comprehend what was happening. Right in front of him was a sign for the 2055 Academy entrance exam. Ito panicked. 2055? It was supposed to be 2075 right now. Yet the board clearly announced the exam venue for 2055. A sudden shock hit him as he tried to process what just happened. 20 years in the past? Back to the academy exams? What on earth is going on here? Clutching his head in deep confusion, he struggled to understand. Suddenly, his eyes caught something on his arm. Looking closely, he realized it was the exact same wristband Captain Guzan had entrusted to him. The band suddenly flashed with a brilliant light. He remembered how Guzan had shouted, "Reversal." Returning to reality, Ito realized the truth. Guzan had used that powerful spell to reincarnate him back into the past. Right on cue, the instructor stepped into the classroom. He solemnly announced that from this exact moment, the academy entrance examinations were officially underway. Guzan abruptly stood up at the back of the classroom, then sat back down in confusion. Holding a pen in his hand, Ito muttered to himself that he had no idea what was going on. He began the test, thinking he just needed to pass this first. Suddenly, Ito noticed something. He was writing with absolute ease. Weren't these questions way too simple? Overflowing with confidence, he knew he could easily solve every single one of them. Was the test always this easy? Soon after, they gathered at the swordsmanship arena. With a single swing, Ito sliced the training dummy right in half. Confused, he stared at his sword, wondering if his skills had somehow skyrocketed. Did this mean he had actually kept Guzan's incredible abilities after traveling back in time? Ito anxiously recalled the last words Guzan spoke right before the reversal. "Ito, you must protect this world. I know you can do it." Ito's hand trembled as he gripped his hilt. With deep resolve, he made a silent vow. "Guzan, I promise you, I will reclaim a world without monsters and mysterious entities." Ito laid out his plan. To achieve this, he first had to become the absolute top mage in this academy. Heading back home, little Luna opened the door to welcome him. The moment he saw her, tears welled up in his eyes. Ito rushed forward and held her tight, confused. Luna repeatedly asked, "What is wrong, big brother?" Ito silently vowed to himself that he would never let Luna die ever again. Fast forward to the academy's opening ceremony. Standing amidst the crowd, Ito quietly thought that he had done absolutely everything in his power. The only question left now was his score. His eyes widened as he reminded himself never again. He never wanted to go through that terrible experience ever again. Old memories flashed back of Guzan shouting for them to stop. Yet Edo was still drenched as Ak poured water over him, sneering. A lowly F rank daring to defy a C rank is just an insect. Right then, Abatoza called out in a booming voice, "Eto Kiju." That was Abatoza, the academy's principal. Ito immediately responded. Whispers and murmurs suddenly broke out all around him. "Who is that guy? Never heard of him." Abatoza smiled warmly and said, "Congratulations, Eto Kiju." Looking at the glowing box in his hand, Edo was completely bewildered. Ito quickly realized this was the prestigious badge reserved only for the highest scorer. Ito gasped in disbelief. "Am I really the top student?" Check this out, this meant he was now standing at the absolute peak of the academy's hierarchy. Later, Ito began wandering around the academy campus. Looking around, he muttered to himself that he still could not believe he had actually secured first place. Right then, Ito saw a student complaining over a food tray. "This is awful. What kind of pathetic food is this?" His friend comforted him. "We have to deal with it. This is how they treat F ranks." Hearing that, Ito looked up at the menu board displaying different meals for each rank. Suddenly, a commotion broke out nearby. "Get out of the way!" The student who had just been shoved to the ground yelled back. "Hey, what do you think you are doing?" Aokyu glared down at him with pure disdain. "Got a problem with me, a C rank?" This arrogant guy was Aokyu, a C rank noble with 532 points. The other two immediately bowed their heads. "A C rank? That is 3 whole ranks above us." Apologizing profusely, they knew this was the reality of the absolute class hierarchy ruling this place. Your status depended entirely on your scores, and defying anyone of a higher rank was strictly forbidden. Yet, Ito walked right up and asked, "Are you okay?" Ook crossed his arms in sheer annoyance. An absolute ranking system ruled this academy, based solely on grades, and defying higher ranks was completely out of the question. Suddenly, his eyes widened. Hearing Ito ask if they were okay, Ook froze. Gritting his teeth, he stared at Ito, thinking that achieving such a high rank right at admission should be completely impossible. Annoyed, Ito bent down to pick up the spilled food tray, muttering about what a waste it was. The faces of the onlookers instantly darkened. Why was a top student cleaning up that mess? They kept whispering about how an A rank would actively clean up a mess. Every word reached Oak's ears. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Oak clicked his tongue and walked away in a huff. "What an absolute eyesore," cursed Ito in his mind. "Acting like a saint, are we? I will definitely make sure you crawl and bow down before me." A bit later, an incredibly luxurious feast was served at their table. Ito smiled warmly, saying, "Sorry to keep you waiting. This is the special menu meant for Class A." He invited everyone to share it, and they happily thanked him. From a distance, a girl quietly observed the scene. Etokiju, the remarkably kind Class A mage, smiled to herself, thinking she would not care if he was just another generic model student. But this guy seemed pretty interesting. This was Sa, the daughter of a high-ranking noble. With 587 points, she was a B rank. She walked up to Ito and asked if she could join him for lunch. Ito froze in slight surprise. "What?" He stared at Sa confused. Was this girl who was completely out of his reach in his past life actually starting a conversation with him? Stuttering, he replied, "Sure, help yourself." Meanwhile, Sa quietly observed him, noting how strong he was despite not showing off at all. She praised him, saying he was truly kind. Hearing this, Ito replied with a serious expression. "Not really, kindness alone cannot protect anything," he stated firmly. Edo asserted that he valued true power far more than simple good intentions. Sa smiled gently, realizing Edokiju might actually be quite fascinating. Nearby, another group of students glared in annoyance. "That bastard is getting way too cocky," one muttered. "I am going to drag him back down to earth." The two newcomers were Tiano, a C rank with 545 points, and Julio, a C rank with 589 points. Tiano deliberately slammed his axe down, mocking, "Oops, my hand slipped." Instantly, the table split in half, food flying everywhere. Gusted, Sa remarked that this was extremely disrespectful, and that private duels should be strictly forbidden anyway. Julio burst out laughing. "Calling her foolish, we came to this academy to fight, did we not?" He calmly claimed that he was simply teaching Ito a valuable lesson about never letting his guard down on the battlefield. Don't overdo it. A brief flash of old memories suddenly floods his mind. "Stop, get your filthy hands off my sister." Ito seriously thinks to himself, "Too bad for you guys. I understand the brutal reality of the battlefield better than anyone." Ito's eyes turn cold. He looks up and questions them. "So what do you want from me?" Tiano shoulders his massive axe. "Let's get straight to the point. I'm challenging you to a fight." A ranking battle against the top student? Hearing this, the surrounding students are absolutely shocked. "A ranking duel right after admission?" Sa asks, looking incredibly tense and worried. "Are you actually serious?" The two bullies just smirk with total confidence. But check this out, Ito lets out a faint smile. He's already plotting. This is a pretty good chance to test out a few things. The Underdog Challenge is a practical training system where you duel a higher-ranked student. If you manage to win, you steal 100 points from them. It is a system built specifically to help you boost your score. The rules are simple. Get knocked out and you lose. That is it. So the group heads up to the school rooftop. Ito knows this challenge has zero benefits for him, but it is a perfect chance to test his limits. So he happily accepts. Sure, I agree. Chulio grins with a nasty challenge. Just fighting is way too boring. Hey, let's make a little wager on this fight. Sa frowns, fully believing Ito will win since he is A rank. But the bully excitedly demands, if this guy loses, you belong to me. Got it? Hearing this, Ito gets seriously worried and warns her, hey, you cannot just agree to a crazy bet like that. Before he can even finish, Sa firmly agrees to the deal. Ito is completely shocked, but then she fires back with her own condition. If Ito wins, you never treat me like an object again. Chulio arrogantly accepts. In his head, he scoffs at her pride. Ito silently lowers his head. His opponent is ranked much higher, and since he is just a logistics officer, he has almost zero real combat experience. Right on cue, Chulio grins and announces that the underdog challenge has officially begun. He immediately unleashes an ice blade attack. Ito recoils in panic, wondering how he should handle these sharp ice blades, but in a split second, he instinctively conjures a solid protective barrier around himself. Ito is left utterly confused. Did his body just react on pure muscle memory? Sa watches with a smile, noting that his reaction speed is actually quite impressive. Ito begins to understand. Course, he might lack formal dueling experience, but he has real battlefield instincts. Fired up, Ito immediately unleashes his fire arrow skill. Chulio just scoffs in pure contempt. To an elite student, that basic move is completely predictable, but Ito is already casting his next spell, Ice Armor. Suddenly Chulio freezes, his eyes wide with pure shock. What on earth is that? Chulio stares in utter confusion. Did those flames just cut straight through his ice blades? Before he can react, he takes a brutal, painful hit. Ito smiles with satisfaction. Combining a fire arrow with ice armor is actually Gen's signature magic. Sa is completely baffled, wondering where on earth he learned to fight like that since they were never taught such combos. Stepping forward with his blade, Ito decides to wrap this up fast. Gen always drilled into him that a fighter must never waste a single movement when striking. He raises his blade high, but Tiano suddenly charges in from the side, screaming at him to stop acting cocky. Startled, Ito barely manages to dodge the surprise attack just in time. Watching from the sidelines, Sa yells out in absolute disgust, "You cowards. This was supposed to be a one-on-one duel with Chulio." Tiano just laughs it off, claiming this challenge was always from both of them. That's when Ito realizes he's been completely set up. A 2-on-1 underdog challenge? Chulio shamelessly mocks him, reminding him that he was the one who said the battlefield is never fair. Sensing danger, Sa desperately calls out for Ito to stop, arguing that a rigged duel like this is completely invalid. But he remains entirely calm, replying that one or two opponents makes no difference. She watches in pure panic as Ito raises his sword once again. Deep down, his mind is already made up. He has a massive destiny to fulfill. Ito has one ultimate goal: to protect this land from a mysterious invasion 20 years in the future. He firmly tells himself that he cannot afford to back down over something this pathetic. Charging forward with his sword raised, Ito yells out that on the battlefield there are absolutely no rules. You either survive or you get completely destroyed. Sa watches in awe, realizing he isn't even looking at the present. He is looking far beyond this moment, straight into the future. Chulio scoffs, promising to crush him, while Tiano grinningly adds that it was their plan from the very start. The two bullies charge together, and Ito swings his blade without a second thought. Confident in his sword skills, he expects an easy win, but right away, reality hits him like a bucket of ice-cold water. Damn it! He quickly realizes they are attacking from both the ground and the air at once. Chulio slashes from above, but Ito blocks with his blade while stopping the massive axe with his bare hand. Sa is completely blown away. He actually blocked a giant axe with his bare hands. What kind of crazy strength is that? Meanwhile, Eto silently plans his counterattack. Alright, let's start with this guy first and take them down one by one. Chulio is forced back but quickly retaliates with 2 rapid slashes. Ito defends himself well, but suddenly his blade shatters into pieces. His blade simply couldn't handle his own massive power and cracked under the pressure. Seizing the opening, Tiano immediately activates his lightning strike. Confident they have won, Chulio also casts a slippery grease spell to trap him. Sa realizes that combo doubles the magic power. What are you going to do, Ito? Right then, Tiano swings his heavy axe directly at Ito's face. Left with no choice, Ito stands frozen as his mind begins to race. Damn it, his defensive magic at this level cannot fully block this head-on attack. Trying to keep his cool, he decides to go for an all-or-nothing gamble. So he immediately unleashes A-rank magic, the summoning skill. Ito decides to test out one of Gen's signature moves, yelling at the top of his lungs to activate the summon. A blinding flash of light erupts as a creature is summoned direct behind Eto, leaving both Chulio and Tiano completely speechless. A dragon? There is no way we can defeat a summon like that. Even Ito is totally shocked by what just appeared. What on earth is happening right now? Honestly, even Ito looks completely terrified here. Through a thick shroud of dark energy, a pair of sharp, terrifying eyes slowly begins to glare at them. Gaga pops out, immediately letting out a giant yawn with sleepy tears. Tiano and Chulio both burst into mocking laughter. What is that tiny, pathetic little thing? They mockingly scoff at Ito, calling his spell completely useless. That successfully rubs the little summon the wrong way. Flying into the air, Gaga sternly demands to know what they just said. Without warning, it launches a massive energy blast directly at the arrogant pair. Julio and Tiano can only scream in total terror, begging for help. Ito is absolutely amazed by the display, wondering what kind of legendary creature this cute little thing actually is. Watching closely, Saw realizes there is no doubt about it. This is one of the strongest beasts only legendary mages can summon an S-rank rarity. The creature proudly lets out a loud cry, Gaga! Julio is left completely speechless at the mention of an S-rank summon. Meanwhile, Ito casually asks if its name is Gaga. The creature nods and proudly clears its throat in agreement. Gaga glares fiercely at the terrified bullies, asking if it should just finish them both off right now. Tiano desperately begs for his life, but Ito steps in and calmly tells his summon to stop here. Gaga calmly questions if he is sure, reminding him that showing mercy to enemies on a real battlefield is strictly forbidden. With a warm smile, Ito replies that he has already seen enough of its power. He adds that these guys are not enemies, but fellow students who will eventually fight alongside them to defeat the real threat. Hearing this, Gaga is actually quite moved by his noble words. Even after being spared, Tiano shamelessly stammers a warning that they just got lucky this time. Julio grinds his teeth in anger, swearing to crush them one day, while Gaga simply watches in quiet amusement. You are pretty kind. Smiling gently, he introduced himself, my name is Io, so don't call me kind. Gaga let out a cheerful laugh in response. Got it, nice to meet you, Io. And just like that, the two officially became friends. Yeah, Gaga, nice to meet you too. Standing nearby, Saga silently observed this guy, Itokiyu. Watching the two of them bonding happily, she felt absolutely certain this man could easily become the most powerful mage the world has ever seen. Night finally falls. Io brings Gaga back home. Luna can't take her eyes off him, he's just so adorable. What's your name, little guy? Is it Gaga? Io happily explains that yes, he is a summoned beast. But basically he's just like a regular pet. Luna squeals with pure excitement, I've always wanted to raise a dog, I'm just so happy. But those words leave poor Gaga feeling a little annoyed. Io smiles softly to himself, thinking about how much he's had to hold back lately. I won't let you suffer any longer, Luna, he promises silently. Then turning back to her, he speaks up. He might look pretty goofy, but he is actually quite fierce. So you should be careful around him. Hearing this, Gaga immediately snaps back in anger. Hey, who are you calling goofy anyway? Seeing the static electricity sparking off him, Io quickly backpedals, saying it's his bad and begging him not to get mad. Watching them, Luna can't help but laugh. And just like that, my second academy life officially begins. The very first major event for the new freshmen is class selection. The academy has 3 classes, each with its own unique traits. The Tiffic class values aggressive action, taking the initiative, and absolute decisiveness. The Osokwa class values adventure, ambition, and raw power. Meanwhile, the unconventional class highly focuses on intellect, strategy, and sharp instincts. There are plenty of intense interclass competitions, and the winning class gets massive bonus points. These speaking from the high stage, Abu Toza continues, explaining that this is a critical choice that will shape their entire future depending on the path they take. Sitting in the crowd below, Saga leans over to ask, have you made up your mind yet? Which class are you planning to join, Io? He stares straight ahead, replying that he still hasn't decided. She thinks it over seriously, but adds that she is definitely crossing the Taifa class off her list first. I heard the professor there is absolutely brutal. Hearing this, Io silently agrees that those rumors are deadly accurate. In his past life, that particular class made his days a living hell. Yvonne of the Tiffic class is a literal demon in a professor's suit. Torturing underachievers is his absolute favorite hobby, and back then, Io had to endure endless physical beatings under his whip. Just then, look who shows up, this is where the trouble starts. Yvonne looms over them, darkly asking if he is the top-ranked student at Tokiyu. Under his threatening gaze, Io nervously confirms it. Sitting next to him, Saga gets incredibly anxious, wondering what Yvonne wants. The professor casually probes, noting that Io applied for a scholarship, right? Io firmly replies that yes, he did. He calmly explains that without it, his finances are going to be in serious trouble. Hearing this, Yvonne drops his demand, if you want that scholarship, you must join the Taific class. Instantly, Io feels a deep sense of dread. What a dirty bastard, Io thinks. What is this guy plotting? Meanwhile, Yvonne smiles with a smug look, thinking that this arrogant brat needs to have his spirit broken before he gets too comfortable. Finally, Io responds, I understand. Hearing his choice, Saga is completely stunned. But deep down, Io makes a firm vow to bring this corrupt professor down to his knees. Looking up, Io speaks, Professor, I also have a condition of my own. Leading him down to a dark basement, Yvonne sneers, then shall we begin your special exam right away? Nervously, Itokiyu asks, a special exam? What do I have to do? With a twisted, trapping smile, Yvonne replies, you will be fighting an A-rank magic beast right here in the underground arena. Stepping into the gloomy underground arena, Io grows highly tense, shocked that he has to fight a magic beast this early. Yvonne smirks mockingly, saying aloud, this match should be a total breeze for our top student and elite A-rank mage, right? Io wonders in complete confusion, why on earth is Professor Yvonne targeting me like this? Just then, steps forward and requests, Professor, please allow me to spectate this battle for academic purposes. Saga, who had been watching from outside, steps in and chimes in, I want to watch too. With no excuse to say no, Yvonne chuckles, such diligent students you are. Very well. Saga thinks to herself that forcing Io to risk his life just to secure a scholarship is absolutely ridiculous. The professor is definitely plotting something foul. Suddenly, Io's eyes widen as he senses a massive threat. It's here. Giant claws grip the edge of the gate, revealing a shredded, heavily muscled chest as the roaring beast steps out of the shadows. This is the feared A-rank magical monster, Godville. Io shudders slightly, muttering that it is as terrifying as always. Saga watches on in sheer panic, wondering if he really intends to fight that giant monster. Yvonne secretly gloats to himself that thing is bred to fight high-tier mages in simulations, so there is no way Io can win. Then he loudly yells a mocking warning: if you can't beat it, run, otherwise you are dead. The Godville growls, closing in on him, gritting his teeth. Io mutters, no way in hell I'm running. Without that scholarship I will have no choice but to drop out of school. Up in the stands, Yvonne frowns, thinking I absolutely will not let you defeat it. Down below, Io steels his resolve. Winning is the only option he's got left. Focusing heavily on his opponent, Io notes it's just a trained monster, lacking the raw, wild savagery of a true beast. Across from him, Godville trembles, then opens its massive maw, blasting a powerful wave of energy. Evading the devastating blast, Io tells himself its attacks are actually pretty simple, I can handle this. Suddenly, Godville leaps high into the air, roaring in rage as a magic circle materializes to strike back at the beast. Next, Io conjures a defensive shield to block its crushing power. Godville only roars louder in raw fury, shaking the arena. That is when Io senses something is deeply wrong, rushing to move out of the way in panic. What is this bloodlust? Io panics. Up above, Yvonne is extremely pleased with himself. Starving the beast for 3 whole days was a genius move. Now its feral, wild killer instincts are fully back. The tension on the battlefield is suffocating. Let's see how he survives this. O laughs, urging the beast to tear him apart while Saga screams in terror, what are you going to do? At this rate, Saga fears he doesn't stand a single chance. Hearing her, Io lets out a heavy, tired sigh. Staring at the monster's surging explosive energy, he is completely shocked by its insane level of savagery. But he quickly regains his composure, remembering a crucial weakness of the beast. Charging forward at high speed, Io recalls his past life memories. These artificial magic beasts bred for training always have one fatal vulnerability. The moment Godville swings, Io ducks and slips behind its back. He knows their combat behavior is entirely controlled by an AI chip implanted right at the back of their skull. Raising his sword, Io knows that destroying the AI chip will shut the beast down instantly. In the stands, Yvonne panics. Is he targeting its head? No way. How could he possibly know about the chip? Io swings his sword downward, aiming directly for the back of Godville's head, but it easily blocks the strike, throwing him off balance. Damn it. Io mutters in confusion, it actually blocked. Still, every beast has its own limits. Analyzing the situation, he knows Godville's raw strength is unmatched, but Io charges in again, confident that its speed is sluggish. With the incredible speed he inherited from Guzen's skills, there is no way it can keep up. Yet unexpectedly, Godville swipes and grabs Io's leg mid-air. He freezes in shock, crying out what? In a split second, the monster gets a complete grip on his body. The impact causes massive internal damage, and he spits up blood as Godville flings him away. Io's body slams violently into the stone wall. He realizes in horror something is seriously wrong. This is not the Godville I remember. Its power and speed are on a whole different level. Up in the stands, Io leans over to Yvonne, whispering rewriting that AI program was truly a brilliant decision. Professor. A sinister glint flashes in Yvonne's eyes as he confirms yes, just like you suggested, I completely removed its limits. Deep down, Yvonne knows this is no longer a simple training pet. It has become a literal killing machine. Overhearing this, Saga confronts them. What do you mean by that? You two are intentionally setting Io up, but O remains completely unfazed, replying that is quite a malicious accusation. We simply gave a poor student a chance to earn a scholarship, they claim. Saga angrily snaps at their cowardice, her heart filled with worry. You absolutely have to win, Io, she thinks. Down on the field, Io steps onto the battlefield once more. Godville unleashes its power. A massive block of ice forms high in the air. Right before it crushes him, Io conjures a defensive shield just in time to block the impact. But the crushing weight of the attack is still too much, leaving Io badly injured. Clutching his wound in agony, he curses this thing is definitely not a rank A beast anymore. Realizing his desperate situation, he concludes that it is mutated into a deadly rank S threat. Io grips his weapon tightly, forcing himself to stand and face Godville. Biting his lip, his eyes blaze with determination. There is no way he can afford to lose this fight. Without that scholarship, he is finished at the academy. He cannot fail. Io raises his hand, channeling his remaining energy to summon his beast, standing tall to proudly carry on the legendary will of Guzen. Watching from above, Oz frowns and wonders if Io just activated a skill. Down on the field, the moment Io completes his summon, a massive fire dragon suddenly materializes right behind him. Professor Ivan stares in absolute shock, unable to believe his eyes as he asks what that thing is. A second later, the giant fire dragon condenses into the rare and legendary beast, Gaga. Saga's eyes light up with hope, clenching her fists in excitement. Our savior is finally here, we are counting on you, Gaga. Io shouts out, lending him his power. Gaga opens his giant jaws wide, roaring back in agreement. Without hesitation, Gaga unleashes a blazing stream of fire, telling Io to leave it to him. The fierce flames engulf Godville, making the beast roar in agony. Seeing his chance, Io charges forward with his sword, determined to destroy the AI chip while he still can. But the flames suddenly vanish. Godville throws its head back, unleashing a sudden burst of energy that completely snuffs out Gaga's fire. Saga's face turns pale with horror as she gasps at the sight, and look closely at this new grotesque flesh begins to sprout directly from Godville's body. Io is completely stunned, wondering what on earth is happening. He watches in dread as massive horns sprout from the beast's body. Even in his past life, he had never witnessed such an abnormal mutation. Up in the stands, Professor Ivan smirks coldly, watching his creation evolve. It looks like Godville has entered its second stage of evolution. Staring at the multiple long heads sprouting from the beast, Io gasps in horror, is this thing actually still leveling up? Suddenly, the multi-headed monstrosity lunges forward to attack. Gaga quickly leaps in front, creating a powerful shield to block the oncoming strike. However, Godville's onslaught is incredibly fierce, slamming directly into the dragon's defensive barrier. Shocking. The beast's attack pierces right through the barrier. Saga watches the battle with growing dread, wondering how on earth the monster shattered Gaga's shield with such insane power. Even Gaga looks down at his own weakened state, suggesting in a defeated voice that they might not win this and should run. But Io instantly yells back, refusing to back down or run away. Meanwhile, Godville keeps raining down savage blows on their failing defenses. Up in the VIP booth, Oze covers his mouth, snickering with arrogant satisfaction at their struggle. Excellent. Io's defeat is absolutely guaranteed, and he will finally be expelled from the academy. O sneers with excitement, vowing never to let Io surpass him. Right then, Saga yells out to warn Io about a shocking truth. She warns him that this entire match is a trap set by Auze, who bribed the professor. Hearing this, Io's eyes widen in disbelief as he repeats the word trap. Saga, absolutely furious, shouts down another devastating piece of news. The girl reveals they even tampered with the AI program, making the fight impossible to win. Finally, everything clicks for Io as he bites his lip, realizing why the beast has been leveling up non-stop. He just frowns. His eyes burn with fire as he yells back that all he needs to do is win. Saga's eyes well up with tears, silently calling him a reckless idiot. Ace scoffs in disgust, internally mocking Io's stubborn foolishness before ordering Godville to finish him off. Instead of throwing long-range attacks, the massive beast charges straight toward Io. Gaga glares at the beast, urgently asking what the plan is, since the professor's modifications might have erased all of its weaknesses. But those exact words suddenly spark a brilliant realization in Io's mind, making him understand. Io excitedly yells out that the modification itself is the key weakness. Confused, Gaga asks him what on earth he means by that. Io just smiles confidently and orders Gaga to spread fire absolutely everywhere. The dragon immediately charges up his flames, hesitantly questioning if this will actually work. Right after speaking, Gaga spits out a massive barrage of intense fireballs straight ahead. Blazing fireballs race like the wind, heading straight for the massive Godville. Professor Ivan scoffs at the sight, mocking Io's simple attack as completely useless against his highly evolved mutant beast. Godville gathers energy. On the other side, Gaga screams in fury, warning the beast not to look down on them as their powerful attacks collide head-on in a massive explosion. Gaga roars at the top of his lungs, calling the opponent a monster. Clutching the arena wall in dread, Saga anxiously watches the magical clash, doubting Io can survive such a raw magic battle. What is Io even planning? On the arena floor, his face remains perfectly calm as he calculates his next move. Since Professor Ivan programmed the beast, the creator's fatal flaw must be the monster's weakness too. Recalling the professor's crafty nature, Io smiles. Ivan is obsessed with magic duels and always avoids close combat. And here's the best part: up in the stands, Saga finally figures out Io's brilliant plan. She gets it. Io is using Gaga's massive fireballs to create a perfect opening. Io raises his sword, his eyes sharp as he thinks that a professor who has never faced true death on a real battlefield could never defeat a survivor like him. Moving like a flash of lightning, he lunges forward, slashing down with immense power directly at Godville's head. His sharp blade pierces straight through the skull, destroying the tiny AI chip hidden inside. Professor Ivan's face turns pale, cold sweat dripping down as he realizes his precious creation has been ruined. Down on the stage, sparks fly from the destroyed chip as Godville collapses to the ground. Io smiles with relief, declaring that their plan succeeded and they won the match, while Gaga praises his quick thinking. Saga quickly runs down from the spectator stands to stand right in front of him. With a joyful smile, she tightly clenches her fists and praises him, telling Io that he was absolutely incredible. Io humbly shakes his head, smiling with deep gratitude as he thanks Saga for her help. Up above, Ivan and Auze grit their teeth in absolute fury, unable to accept their humiliating defeat. Suddenly, Oz freezes as he notices Godville slowly turning its head toward them. His face turns completely pale as he trembles, pointing at Io and shouting that the enemy is over there, but the beast has lost its mind. It targets Oz. Claws charged, the beast strikes. He and Ivan turn pale with horror, desperately scrambling to escape. But they are too late as the powerful strike slams into the stone wall, instantly blasting both of them away. From where they stand, Io and his friends hear Ivan screaming about his defeat, while Oz frantically cries out in panic. Watching them get blasted away, Saga just sighs helplessly at their pathetic fate, while Io simply smiles, thoroughly enjoying the hilarious show. With that fierce battle finally over, Io happily returns to the quiet comfort of his home. Sitting at the table, he happily scoops a large bowl of rice, while Gaga sits nearby enjoying a giant banana. Luna smiles warmly across from them, declaring that today is the official start of their new academy life. Io closes his eyes with a soft sigh, revealing that there's already an interclass competition starting right away, and promises to do his best. Gaga raises an eyebrow in curiosity, asking if it's really an interclass tournament. He nods and explains that winning will earn them valuable points, which will heavily impact their overall grades. Luna smiles back, her voice filled with bright hope for their future. She hopes they will get some incredibly strong classmates to team up with. Io chuckles, agreeing that it would be nice, before enthusiastically declaring that it is time to start. Finally, their first day of academy life arrives. An introductory voice explains that each student can choose from 3 main classes, starting with OS Quadra, a faction that deeply values adventure, ambition, and raw power. Ancon Manchap values wisdom, strategy, and cunning, while T-Ferric is all about boldness, action, and pure decisiveness. Standing beneath the red banner of T-Ferric, Io quietly wonders what kind of teammates will actually join his faction. Right as he chooses his class, a bright, cheerful voice calls out his name. Io spins around to find Sarah running toward him, waving happily. She says they are officially classmates now and she is so excited to meet him. He rushes over with a huge smile, unable to hide his excitement. "Did you join T-Ferric too?" he asks, thanking her. Sarah suddenly blushes, shyly muttering that it is not like she followed him here or anything. Io remains totally calm, his gaze steady and determined. "With you on our side, our class will be absolutely invincible." But before the words even settle, a bitter, arrogant voice cuts right through them. "Do not be so stupid." Julio, a C rank, stands beside the C rank Tiano with a sneer, bragging that their own class is obviously the strongest. Sarah tenses up, quietly warning Io that those guys actually have some pretty heavy hitters on their team. She glares at the arrogant crowd across from them, feeling a cold wave of annoyance rising inside. Just then, Yan walks up with a wicked grin, promising that starting today, he is going to train Io like absolute hell. Io forces a shaky smile and nods. "Yes, sir," but on the inside he lets out a heavy, helpless sigh. Of course, their homeroom teacher had to be the notoriously brutal Yan. Still smirking, the teacher hands over a book and tells them to check out the class list to get motivated. Io takes it, noticing the cover reads Zenoa Magic Academy Class List Class 23. Sarah flips it open, her eyes widening as she gasps. What on earth is this? Staring at the roster for their class, T-Ferric, she scans the names in absolute shock. Pretty much everyone is F rank. Io breaks into a cold sweat, desperately wondering how on earth the balance could be this horribly skewed. With a heavy, exhausted sigh, he realizes they are stuck with an entire squad of weak F ranks. Seeing his despair, Yan just laughs at their misfortune. He mockingly wishes them luck. Now here is where it hurts. Sarah flips the page to find every single elite student packed into Ancon Manchap. They are on a totally different level. Io frowns, muttering that this cannot be right. Across the yard, the C-rank Ode stands with arms crossed, calling his name. Io glares back, demanding to know what he did. "What did you do?" Io asks. Odie just shrugs, his voice pure arrogance as he says it is simple capitalism. He gestures smoothly, explaining his logic that power and talent naturally gather wherever the money is. Sarah frowns, her eyes filled with suspicion. "Are you saying you literally bought them off?" she asks. AD does not answer, only offering a smug smile, telling her that if she is jealous, she should just join them instead. Turning her head away in absolute disgust, she tells him she would pass because she has zero interest in teaming up with cowards. Right then, a booming, majestic voice rings out, snapping everyone to attention. Standing at a distance, Principal Abudo loudly announces that they are about to kick off the very first event for the new classes. The moment he finishes speaking, staff pull back a red curtain, revealing a giant map screen. Io studies the screen, narrowing his eyes as he realizes his guess was right. The first challenge is indeed a map-based orienteering exercise. Holding the microphone, Abudo casually explains the rules. Using only a map and compass, students must hit all checkpoints and reach the finish line. He pauses dramatically, then announces a massive reward. The fastest class will get 100 points per member. Hearing this, the students' eyes light up, their excitement instantly boiling over. 100 points, they gasp, because a win could literally boost their ranks. Yan steps up to the podium next, raising his microphone to announce the next detail. Only 5 selected members from each class will compete. Oat grins to himself, confident his speed magic makes this an easy win. Tiano also sneers, dismissing it as a simple race, but Io knows there is a catch. He looks deep in thought. No, this is definitely not just some standard orienteering event, he realizes. Analyzing the map, he notices the entire race route cuts straight through a region absolutely crawling with dangerous monsters. Realizing the danger, he lets out a quiet sigh. This race is going to be brutally tough. Looking at his carefree classmates, he bites his lip, remembering how he used to be a useless F-rank failure in his past life too. He clenches his fists, resolving not to give up. We love to see this determination. He is about to prove that even a team of F-ranks can take the crown. Sarah approaches him, visibly anxious. Hey, how on earth are we supposed to win with this class? She asks. Io does not answer, instead turning to the crowd and waving his hand to call them over. Does anyone here know the mountain terrain well? He calls out. Is anyone good at reading the stars or maybe crafting items? 3 nervous F-rank students slowly raise their hands. It is Ami, Foro, and Lei Jiao. Nodding with a warm smile, he invites them to team up with him and Sarah. But Foro hesitates, casting his gaze down as he confesses they will probably just end up dragging him down. But Io shakes his head, his eyes burning with absolute certainty. Trust me, we can win this, he declares. The trio can only stare in disbelief, gasping. Even Sarah looks deeply skeptical, wondering how they could possibly pull off a victory with a squad full of F-ranks. Not wasting another second, Principal Abudo fires the starting gun, loudly declaring the orienteering race has officially begun. Instantly, Odd casts a speed buff on his teammates, thinking to himself how this spell will easily double their running pace. The moment the magic takes hold, his entire squad blasts forward like a rocket. Meanwhile, Io looks at his team with a serious expression. We are not fighting alone, he says. If you cannot believe in yourselves, then place your trust in me. His gaze sharpens as he emphasizes that they must fight as one. Hearing this, his 3 T-Ferret classmates stop doubting and nod in agreement. We get it, Io. We believe in you, they promise. With a serious face, he tells them again, if you cannot believe in yourselves, then put your trust in me. Our team does not fight alone, we move as one team. Amy and Foro stay quiet, their faces still showing deep hesitation. But Lei Jiao steps forward, setting aside his fears as he firmly tells Io that they are officially putting all their faith in him. With that, Io leads his squad into a sprint, but he is shocked when he sees the insane pace of Odie's team. How are they moving that fast? He wonders, quickly realizing the truth and asking if they used magic. Leading the pack, Tiano bursts out laughing, shouting that they poured all their power into speed magic. They do not slow down for a second, yelling at everyone to get out of the way and clear the path. Right behind him, Ode rushes up and demands that everyone clear the road. Seeing their incredible, lightning-fast pace, Tiano frowns, wondering how on earth they are moving so fast. Did you actually use haste magic? He mutters. Left choking in their dust, Chulio glares bitterly at the Ancon Manchap squad, screaming that the rivals have completely blown past them. Odie laughs triumphantly, confident that because they poured all their power into speed magic, they will never lose a simple running race. Meanwhile, Tiano is sprinting like crazy, growling in pure, bitter frustration. Damn it, not a single one of us knows how to cast haste magic, he seethes. Right behind them, Io's team is quickly closing the gap. Suddenly, Io holds up his hand to stop his classmates, telling them to wait. Sarah frowns in confusion, asking why they are stopping when they need to be hurrying. Io does not answer, instead spreading open the map and looking over at Lei Jiao. Didn't you say you know these local mountains like the back of your hand? Pointing to a specific spot on the map, Io suggests a different path. Can we follow this river to get to the first checkpoint, he asks. Lei Jiao studies the map closely, looking slightly concerned. It is definitely possible, he says, but you do realize that is a massive detour, right? Io shakes his head, replying that he does not mind the extra distance at all. Sarah quickly chimed in with a warning that they do not have time for detours, offering to cast a speed spell on everyone instead, but Io firmly shakes his head. No, he says, speed alone is not going to win us this race. Meanwhile, leading the Ancon Manchep team, Ode is absolutely gloating. If they keep up this incredible pace, he thinks, securing the final victory will be as easy as taking candy from a baby. But suddenly, a terrifying scream echoes through the trees, making him spin around in a panic. What is going on? He yells. A massive 2-headed beast emerges, completely blocking their path. Shocked, Odd mutters that nobody ever warned them about monsters. Quickly drawing his sword, he grits his teeth in regret. This is bad, he realizes. He should have picked teammates who actually know how to fight. Out of nowhere, a figure swings a double-headed axe and slices a monster's head clean off. Ode freezes, his eyes wide in absolute disbelief. What? Across from him, Tijano pulls back his weapon with a contemptuous smirk. To him, low-level monsters like this are a total joke. Ode just stands there in absolute shock. Tijano defeated that thing in a single strike, and now he is casually walking away, tossing back a smug's, though irritating taunt. He tells them that spoiled kids who cannot even handle one monster should just go home. Oda chokes on his words, cursing inwardly, damn it, he really should not have put all his stat points into speed. Ode tries to laugh it off, claiming he was just about to finish it himself. Hearing this, Chulio looks back with a cold sneer, oh really? In that case, he raises his hand, resurrects the monster, and spits out a threat. Mind your own business, he snaps. The massive beast immediately springs back to life, lunging at Aude with its jaws wide open. Meanwhile, Chulio just keeps walking, shouting back over his shoulder. He tells them he will wait at the finish line, grinning with icy cold eyes as he warns them to try their best to survive. Meanwhile, over on the Ferric team, everyone is completely exhausted, panting heavily. Liera is still bursting with energy, pumping her fists to cheer them on. She promises there is a plum tree with delicious fruit just ahead. Hearing this, both Aimi and Foro smile, finding their second wind. Io breathes a sigh of relief. Recruiting Liera, who knows these mountains so well, was definitely the right choice. Sarah is still uneasy, asking if the other teams have already headed to the second checkpoint. Io shakes his head, betting that they are stuck, and he is right over on Squadra. Chulio is absolutely losing his mind. You have got to be kidding me, he roars. Looking at the broken bridge, his blood boils. Some monster completely destroyed it, and this was not on the map. Tejano checks their map, frowning in complete helplessness. They have no choice but to detour along the river. Chulio sighs in frustration, pointing them in a new direction. Meanwhile, watching the monitors back at headquarters, Abuto frowns, deeply confused by what he is seeing. The rest of the students watch closely, whispering in surprise. Every single team is now funneling toward the river. Does this mean Tejano is still leading the pack? By now, Io's team has reached the mountain riverbank. Watching this, Abuto is deeply intrigued. Did this kid actually foresee all of this? He really is something special. Sarah loudly cheers the group on, telling them the checkpoint is just ahead. A moment later, Io spots the outpost and shouts in excitement. That is it, he says, I see it. Lara follows close behind, letting out a relieved sigh. Sarah steps up to the observation post and her eyes go wide. Since 3 stones are still sitting there, the group erupts in pure excitement. Wait, does this mean they are actually the very first to arrive? Io calmly picks up a stone and nods. Yep, they are currently in first place. Sarah is still in total shock, asking how he knew this was the right path. Io just awkwardly scratches his chin, playing it cool with a quick excuse. Oh, just a hunch, he smiles. The team is buzzing with hope, realizing that with Io, they might actually win. But wait, look at his face. A freezing shiver runs down his spine as he spots a pair of cold, glowing eyes staring from the bushes. Oh crap, this is where things go horribly wrong. A massive blue beast lunges out from the thicket, sending everyone into a wild panic. Io stares at the giant creature, his heart dropping as he curses, damn it, a monster. Run, his friends scream, scrambling to escape. Sarah sizes up their chances and shivers as she states the truth with their weak lineup, there is no way they can win. But Io frowns, his sharp gaze cutting through the panic. We cannot advance until we take this thing down, he declares. Liera turns pale, crying out that nobody warned them about magic beasts being out here. Io draws his blade and steps forward, his voice steady. Draw your weapons, we are going to fight. Hearing this, Foro looks absolutely petrified, his face turning completely pale. What? There is no way. Amy desperately reminds him that they are only F rank. Even Sarah stumbles back, her voice shaking as she insists they have to run. Fighting this thing is impossible for a group like theirs. But Io refuses to back down, locking eyes with them as he asks a brutal question. If your family was about to be attacked, would you just run away then? His words hit home, leaving everyone dead silent. Staring down the giant beast, his voice turns cold. I want the strength to protect my family with my own hands, he yells. Memories of his past life flash by watching helplessly as his sister was attacked. Do not you dare touch her. His resolve hardens. That is exactly why they cannot run. But Sarah steps in, immediately throwing cold water on his heroic Stop talking nonsense, she snaps. Do you want to get us all killed? But behind her, 3 of their classmates draw their weapons. Shaking but determined, Lara steps up, declaring that she wants to grow stronger too. Io smiles, nodding in relief. Exactly. Let us all get stronger together. Watching this unfold, Sarah is completely stunned, silently noting the sudden shift in everyone's hearts. These guys are more motivated now than when the race even started. Thanks to Io, they have found their courage. Liera grips her sword, her eyes burning. You have a plan, right? I am with you. Io pauses as a memory flashes through his mind. Back when he was just a supply porter, he saw Captain Gwen take down one of these beasts. He is absolutely certain its weak point is the antenna on its head. Narrowing his eyes, he quickly lays out the plan. He will draw its attention, and the moment the beast is distracted, the rest of them must strike the antenna. Without hesitating, Io charges forward, determined to get everyone across that finish line together. Raising his hand, he channels a small fire dragon, triggering his A-rank summoning skill. Lara watches in utter shock, stammering, is that really an A-rank skill? Gaga appears with a lazy yawn, asking why he was summoned. Io clears his throat, telling his partner that nap time is officially over. It is time to fight. The little dragon glances at the massive beast and shrugs. So that is the enemy? Fine. Gaga opens its mouth, blasting a stream of hot flames. Seizing the moment, Io leaps high into the air, swinging his blade down. Great job, Gaga, he yells, delivering a sharp slash. But the beast is insanely quick, dodging backward just in time. Dodging the blow, the monster growls, lunging right back at him. Sarah grips her sword, shouting that now is their chance. The others join in, charging forward as one. Right in front of them, the beast bares its teeth, rushing forward in a frenzy. Liera freezes, her face turning white as she screams that it is coming straight for them. Io barks out to keep their spirits up, do not give up. On the battlefield, it is kill or be killed. Even Gaga looks done with his drama. You are totally overreacting, Gaga sighs, pointing out that the beast's eyes are actually blue. Looking at their opponent, the summon explains that it is just a training illusion. It is not actually going to hurt anyone. Io nods, playing along as he gives them a serious look. True, but taking this thing down with your own hands is how you build real confidence. And once you have that confidence, you will become truly powerful. His voice grows incredibly serious. If we do not grow stronger together, we will never be able to protect this world. He looks at his friends, his voice softening. So please, stand and fight with me. His plea strikes a chord deep inside them and their grips tighten on their hilts. Foro nods, his eyes filled with determination. I get it, I want to grow stronger too. Aimi joins in, declaring that she is sick of being F rank. She wants to change her destiny. Lara raises her voice as well, promising to become a powerful mage just like Io. Seeing this, Io smiles with immense relief. Just look at the fire in their eyes. Every single one of them has massive potential to grow. He grips his sword and charges right back in, calling out, Sarah, back us up with your magic. Sarah leaps forward as well, calling out her spell Lightning Strike. The bolts of lightning slam directly into the beast. Io grins, awesome. Now let us hit it with everything we have got. On his mark, the entire team charges forward. Let us go. Saria swings her sword with all her might, slicing through the first tentacle as she lets out a low growl to take this. Foro also cuts off another beast tentacle, screaming that he won't lose, while Saria signals from a corner. Amy immediately rushes in to sever the remaining tentacle, yelling to leave it to her. After their relentless combined attacks, the beast throws back its head and crashes to the ground, leaving Foro panting heavily and completely drenched in sweat. He still cannot believe it, gasping out to ask if they really defeated the beast. Ito smiles and nods firmly, telling him that they did it together and did an absolutely amazing job. Emi and the others are absolutely overjoyed, showing their deep gratitude and thanking Ito for everything. She lets out a huge sigh of relief, praising him and saying she feels like as long as they are with Ito, they can win anything. Ito leads the group away, humbly replying that they can win if they all stand together as one, urging them to keep moving. Meanwhile, Tiano's group finally reaches the checkpoint and spots the exam station right ahead. Seeing only 2 marbles left, his eyes widen in total shock, refusing to believe they are in second place, while wondering if Ito's group is actually leading the pack. Chulio clicks his tongue, immediately scheming a malicious plan. If so, he says they just need to get in their way. Seeing Chulio raise his sword to smash the checkpoint, Tiano frantically tries to stop him, yelling that he cannot do that. He helplessly watches Chulio slash down, screaming in despair to stop because that is the Owl Guardian. But it is too late, as Chul slices the owl statue clean in half, smugly resting his sword on his shoulder. As Ito's team is leaving, he suddenly turns around, sensing something incredibly dangerous nearby. What on earth is that? A magic beast? He spots 3 pairs of cold, glowing red eyes in the bushes, suddenly realizing what is happening. Red eyes? Ito's face turns completely pale. That is not an illusion beast, which means a real awakened monster has actually crossed over. A while later, Ador's group reaches the checkpoint, and seeing only 1 stone left, he gasps in total shock, asking if they are in 3rd place. Ador grits his teeth in rage, cursing that they actually lost to Ito's team. He rushes off, frantically urging them to hurry up and not embarrass him, but just then a pair of cold eyes flashes from the dark bushes, followed by a terrifying growl that instantly grabs Ador's attention. The moment he sees the massive magic beast appear, his face is filled with absolute shock. The beast's long snout snags a student's cloak, flinging him into the air as the poor guy screams in panic for help. He screams for someone to save him, as Adur falls backward onto the ground, with his face turning pale from sheer absolute terror. Staring deep into the beast's cold, murderous eyes, a chilling and horrific realization hits his trembling heart. Those eyes, has it actually awakened into a real bloodthirsty monster? The beast forcefully flings the struggling student to the ground, and the panicked kid immediately scrambles up, running away for his life. Adur suddenly takes a step back, loudly shouting for them to fall back and follow him. The students behind grit their teeth in deep resentment, wondering if he really intends to just abandon his teammate to die. Meanwhile, Ito's group runs forward, hoping to easily take first place. Running at the very back of them all, Ito's face turns dead serious as he warns himself. With their current weak lineup, they stand absolutely zero chance against an awakened monster, so he must protect them at all costs. A moment later, they arrive, excitedly pointing ahead to find the second checkpoint waiting right there. They quickly move forward, standing before the grand building and remarking that it looks exactly like a giant library. Now look at this scene. Ito purses his lips and stares at the grand building with a heavy heart, wondering what terrors are waiting for them inside. Clenching his fists as sweat rolls down, he senses a terrifying magic, but they cannot stop now. One teammate worries that it looks terrifyingly like a dungeon, but another immediately reassures them not to worry because they have Ito by their side. Walking down the hall, Ito suddenly stops, sensing immediate danger. Just then, books lying silently on the shelves violently fly out, leaving everyone startled as Ito stares at the books floating in midair. What on earth is that? Watching the book pages flip frantically, he sternly warns them that the magical energy is absolutely terrifying. Ito quickly reaches his hand toward a book, loudly yelling to summon his barrier. But after his shout, absolutely nothing happens, and his hand freezes in midair. Ito turns pale, staring at his hand in pure disbelief, muttering that his magic is completely sealed. Staring at the books floating above, he wonders in shock why this is happening. Suddenly, Ito passes out, waking up much later to clutch his pounding head and slowly sit up on the freezing ground. Looking at the completely unfamiliar room, Ito wonders if they were teleported. Saria also wakes up, looking around anxiously to ask where they are and if this is some kind of trap. Ito frowns, replying in a low voice that he does not know, but the magical energy here feels far stronger. Just then, the eyes of a statue in the corner flash with a blinding light. Ito instantly senses the danger, snapping his gaze toward the source. A massive door slowly creaks open as a freezing mist pours out. Ito and Saria gasp, watching a giant beast lunge forward, holding someone tightly in its grasp. Saria looks at the boy trapped in its grasp and gasps, crying out for her big brother. Hearing this, Ito is startled, asking if that is really her brother. Saria quickly nods, explaining the painful truth. Yes, but my brother was killed by a monster a long time ago. Tears stream down Saria's face as she reveals the painful truth, that he died while desperately trying to protect her. This unexpected encounter forces her to remember the past, when her brother stood before the beast to protect her. Back then, Saria had frantically reached out, screaming for her big brother in sheer terror. But back then, she could only watch the monster carry him away, helplessly screaming to give her brother back. In the present, Saria clutches her head in absolute agony, tears pouring down her face as she screams in deep despair. She cries that she was completely useless. Ito holds her shoulders to comfort her, gritting his teeth as he realizes there is absolutely no way Saria's brother could be in a place like this. Damn it, is this some kind of mental attack? But look closely the next second. As he glances at the person trapped by the second beast, his heart stops because she looks exactly like his sister Luna. Ito freezes, seeing her with closed eyes in that giant hand. His eyes widen, his voice trembling as he calls out Luna's name. Saria slowly stands up, asking who that is, as Ito answers in a low, pained voice. It is his little sister. He painfully recalls how she was killed by a beast in his past life, a tragedy he failed to prevent. Ito grits his teeth in pure rage, realizing this monster is playing with his deepest regret. Ito stands protectively in front of Saria, facing the two massive beasts. Saria suddenly pushes him, choking back tears as she desperately tells him they need to run. But Ito stands completely still, whispering that they cannot run. Having regained his composure, he calmly explains that this is a trial room, a place where they must face and fight their past trauma and regrets. Ito turns to look straight into Saria's eyes, telling her to stand up and fight. Pursing her lips, she still nods in agreement despite her lingering fear. With that, Ito bends low, charging headfirst into battle against those two ferocious beasts. Standing before Saria with his sword drawn, he firmly believes this time is completely different, and his current self can definitely shatter this mental trap. The beast suddenly lunges forward, and Ito leaps up to counter, shouting that he is coming to save Luna. He draws his sword as flames erupt, thrusting the blade forward, but the weapon suddenly freezes. Ito grits his teeth in deep frustration, cursing that his magic has been sealed here too. But looking down at the wrist holding his sword, he suddenly realizes that is not the case. Ito realizes in absolute panic that the bracelet Captain Gun gave him has vanished, meaning this space has forced him back to his very first life. From behind, Saria screams in terror, warning him that the beast is charging. Ito stares at the ferocious beast, knowing his past self could never win this. It is a C-rank awakened monster, and as its massive fist comes crashing down, his body freezes in pure terror. If he loses here, he dies. Saria screams for him to run, but Ito grits his teeth, refusing to give up as he raises his sword to block the beast's devastating punch. Io struggles against the crushing weight of the massive beast, a creature far larger than himself. Even if he is thrown right back to the very beginning, he screams out that he won't run anymore. His only choice is to fight. Sa is frozen in pure shock, but with a powerful parry, Io knocks the beast back, leaping into the air to counterattack with all his strength. He never wants to be that pathetic coward again, but suddenly the beast swings its massive arm, freezing the very air around them. Sa panics, wondering how on earth Io could possibly dodge from that distance. As the icy blade grazes Io, he tells himself it is time to end this nightmare. With a powerful Kung slash, he shatters the ice magic, cutting ties with his weak, past self once and for all. The strike tears straight through the ice magic. Io lands gracefully as the beast's severed arm hits the dirt. Sa stares in absolute disbelief. Is he really taking down this monster without using a single spell? Meanwhile, Io feels a familiar spark, realizing that his powers were never actually stripped away from him. He glances back and shouts a warning. Sa, that thing is just an illusion. Do not let it trick you. She looks completely lost, clenching her fists tightly as she mutters that she simply cannot do it. Io urges her on, reminding her that she chose to become a mage to carry on her brother's legacy. Sa bites her lip, finally finding the resolve to stand up and fight alongside him because she wants to grow stronger. Tears well up in Sa's eyes as she vows to become the powerful mage her brother always dreamed of. Io looks back with an encouraging smile, telling her to let's fight because together they can win. Facing two massive beasts, Io tells Sa to target the side without the arm. Sa nods, saying she understands, and Io charges right in. With absolute determination in her eyes, she vows to fulfill her brother's dream. Io silently promises to get strong enough to protect Luna. He slashes down with incredible force. Take this. His blade tears through the beast's shoulder, and Sa springs forward, spotting her perfect opening. She slips in close and slices the monster's ankle, sending it crashing to the ground. Saw smiles in relief, shouting they did it, but Io yells back in warning that the battle is far from over. And look at that, this is where things get really bad. Both beasts are already healing at an unbelievable speed, ignoring all damage. Saw realizes in absolute horror that physical attacks alone are not going to cut it against these things. But just then, Lai and his group burst through the door, shouting that they are ready to join the fight too. Both Io and Saw turn back in utter shock, but looking at the situation, Io warns them that these are C-class awakened beasts, a threat far too dangerous for Lai's group to handle. Amy tries to convince him, saying it is not fair to leave all the heavy lifting to just him and Saw 4 agrees completely, while Lai flashes a confident grin, boasting that the three of them actually just took down a beast on their own. Saw stares at them in awe, asking if they really defeated a monster all by themselves. She cannot help but marvel at how much they have grown compared to how timid they used to be. Io looks at his friends with genuine admiration, realizing that Lai and the others have conquered their own trials. He smiles, no longer holding them back, and tells them to let's fight together. Suddenly, Io notices a stone statue standing silently nearby. What on earth is that? The eyes of the fox statue glow with an eerie blue light, and strange wisps of fire begin flickering from the corners of the room. As Io studies the room, Saw steps up and asks what is going on. He points to the shelf, suggesting they read the spine labels horizontally. The letters seem to form some kind of magic seal. Saw rubs her chin, wondering if this is the mechanism blocking their magical abilities. Io takes a moment to piece it together before his eyes light up with a sudden realization. So that is how the seal works. He shouts that they can actually win this, then dashes to the shelf to pull a book down. Saw panics, asking what he is doing and yelling that now is not the time to read. But Io ignores her, entirely focused on arranging the books. Behind him, the beasts creep closer and closer before suddenly lunging to attack, forcing Saw to try and cast a protective barrier. She realizes too late that her magic is still blocked. The monster's brutal strike lands instantly, sending everyone crashing to the ground in pain. Saw grits her teeth in sheer frustration, unable to cast even a simple defensive spell. Behind her, Lai's group is completely down, and as the fox statue's eyes glow brighter, the beasts close in and force her back. She screams at Io that it is useless, but he has already slotted the final book and placed the letter E. Suddenly, a massive surge of magic erupts from the shelves, and the fox statue's eyes flash bright gold. Io cheers, realizing his theory was spot on. As the fox statue floods the entire room with blinding golden light, Saw asks in utter confusion what on earth he just did. Sighing, Io starts channeling a spell, telling her that he rearranged the books and to read the spine labels. Glowing magical letters appear on the shelf, spelling out a message about the awakening of the sage. Saw realizes with a shock that it was an anagram. She tells him it is incredible that he noticed such a trick, and Io announces to the group that the magic seal should be broken now. Privately, Io knows he never would have cracked it without his past life experiences. He remembers a mission where a comrade handed him a slip of paper, saying it was the only intel they had. Back in those days, military orders were always heavily coded. Rearranging those completely random characters had revealed a simple directive to attack the East. Io realizes with a quiet smile that no experience in life is ever truly wasted. Even a painful past can become a source of strength. Now watch closely, they're gearing up to end this fight once and for all. As the massive beasts charge right at them, Io draws his sword, praying for his full strength to return. Saw immediately unleashes a devastating fire spell called Vion, which successfully erupts and engulfs the monster in roaring flames. Io channels lightning magic into his blade, watching the sparks dance with absolute joy. Realizing his mana has fully recovered, he charges forward with a ferocious grin, shouting for the beast to take this. He leaps high, bringing his lightning-charged blade down on the beast. The crackling electrical energy forces a painful screech from the monster. Smiling, Io sticks a perfect landing as both beasts collapse onto the dirt. Amy can barely believe her eyes, gasping that he took it down with a single strike. Lai cheers, saying he expected nothing less from them, while Saw rushes over with a bright smile, celebrating their victory. They did it, or did they? Suddenly, one of the fallen beasts surges back to life, radiating dark energy as Io whips around in absolute shock, cursing under his breath. The beast conjures an ominous summoning vortex above, forming a massive glowing magic circle. Everyone watches in sheer terror as Saw realizes this is the high-level spell Thudaran, and she cannot block it. A massive bolt of lightning rains down directly on their heads, and Amy closes her eyes, bracing for the end. But Io just frowns, instantly conjuring a glowing barrier to shield the entire group. Io breathes a sigh of relief, glad he made it in time. Saw looks around in awe, realizing he just cast the advanced Suden spell in a split second, and her admiration for him grows even deeper. She feels like Io is somehow getting stronger by the second. But Amy suddenly screams a warning. Watch out! The monster is charging a massive blazing fireball. The beast unleashes a torrent of flames, but Io swiftly dodges the blast, marveling that it can also use advanced magic. He leaps to safety, confident in his speed, but suddenly senses a trap. Looking down, Io realizes he has stepped directly into a magic trap. Sa watches in terror as the magic circle glows, realizing a massive explosion is about to blow him to pieces. Thick smoke blankets the area as the beast lets out a deafening roar. Everyone watches in sheer panic, fearing Io is gone, as the monster slowly creeps through the ruins and charges right at them. Suddenly, Sa spots a figure high in the air. It is Io, diving down with his sword raised. He smirks, muttering that he told them he wouldn't lose in a speed race, before cleanly slicing the beast in half. Ito turns back to look at what he just accomplished. The game is finally over. Everyone runs over to him, shouting in relief that he is safe. Emi pouts, clearly embarrassed, telling him not to scare them like that ever again. Ito scratches his head with a sheepish smile, apologizing and saying he still needs to get way stronger. He picks up the red jewel by the fox statue. With that, they have cleared the second checkpoint. Ito excitedly rallies everyone, saying it is time to move on. Meanwhile, the broadcast screens show their progress, leaving the spectators absolutely stunned. Team T is already heading straight for the third checkpoint. Ito is seriously amazing, but Yan just stands on the sidelines, clicking his tongue in annoyance. He swears he will not let Ito win. Yan summons a magic orb, smirking about some cheating skill, saying he kept his promise. Elsewhere, Coolio and his squad are struggling hard against giant magical beasts. They are getting backed into corner when Coolio suddenly screams out in confusion, wondering why the monsters are suddenly vanishing. Tiano chuckles, patting him on the shoulder, saying they just got incredibly lucky and telling Chulio to hurry. But then a voice calls out from behind. O stands there, arms crossed, wearing a smug smirk. Yo asks if Chulio is going to thank him for clearing out those beasts. Chulio's face immediately darkens. He turns around and demands to know what O means by saying he cleared them. O reveals he bribed Professor Ivan to get him on their side. He chuckles, pushing up his glasses, thinking about how he also ordered Yen to cast a different spell. Right now, Ito's group is likely moving to the next location. The forest around them is dense and gloomy. Ito checks his compass to find the right path, cautiously warning the team that they need to stay on high alert as they move forward. Ligeia is amazed by Ito's sharp deduction skills. Ito can only manage an awkward laugh, thinking to himself that he cannot exactly tell her this is all from his past life memories. While Ligeia is left feeling thoroughly confused, Saga searches her pockets and suddenly cries out in panic, realizing she dropped her handkerchief. Emi kindly hands her one, telling her to use hers instead, and Saga thanks her. But guess what? A nearby stone statue is watching their every move. A's team is taking the same path. Suddenly, the green-haired guy looks down in surprise. He spots a handkerchief on the ground and picks it up, realizing someone from Ito's group must have dropped it. Ao tells everyone to move out. After searching around, he finally spots a wooden sign shaped like a woodpecker, just as Yan instructed. He points it out to his team, telling them to head in that direction. Standing behind a tree, Chulio watches them walk away. It is just as he suspected. He whispers that Ao must be getting inside info. Tiano steps up in a rage, asking if this means the guy is cheating. Tiano threatens to take him down, but Chulio smirks and stops him. He advises staying calm, saying a smart person knows how to exploit a cheater. They quickly follow, making sure not to lose track of Ao. Ito's group suddenly stops in their tracks, completely stunned. The path ahead is totally gone, leaving nothing but a sheer cliff face. They look around, wondering how they ended up at a dead end. Foro looks down at his compass in shock. The needle is just spinning out of control. Seeing this, Saga guesses that the magnetic field is heavily glitched out, while Aimi looks at the map and asks if they took a wrong turn. She points to the map, showing they have ended up on an entirely different route. Ito is deeply puzzled, silently wondering how this could even happen. Wait, this magnetic distortion was never supposed to happen until after they passed the green statue. In the guides from before he was reincarnated, he recalled a similar glitch where the compass broke, knowing the magnetic field should only get unstable when they are standing right next to the statue itself. Everyone is panicking, wondering which way is north. Ito suddenly realizes what is happening. Someone must have rigged this. Saga looks at him, asking in distress what they should do now. Ligeia looks up at the sky nervously, pointing out that the sun is setting and they cannot keep moving in the dark, but Ito cuts in, suggesting that the cover of night might actually be better. Sa is completely baffled, asking why. Edo just smiles and says they will let Foro lead. Foro is stunned, questioning if he heard right. Edo explains that Foro is an expert on constellations, right? Ito tells him to guide them by reading the stars. Foro grins happily, telling him to leave the stargazing to him. Sa watches Edo in absolute awe, wondering if he chose his teammates while planning for this exact scenario. Ito steps forward with fierce determination, declaring that the match is far from over and they will absolutely win. Foro looks up and lets out a sigh, feeling inspired. Amy and Sa look at the paper, noting they can take a shortcut to the third checkpoint if they head south. Suddenly, a bright light flashes across the sky, and Foro looks up, realizing the way. He points straight at the light and shouts that it is the Southern Cross. If you extend the vertical line of the cross, it points directly south. Ito walks over, patting Foro on the shoulder, warmly thanking him. Foro starts leading the way. By the time darkness falls, they finally arrive at their destination. Ito announces they have made it to the entrance of the third checkpoint, where a massive statue stands illuminated by bright flames. O holds up his torch and boasts that they are the first to arrive, urging his team to keep up the momentum to take first place. Behind a wall, Chulio smirks, silently calling O an idiot and thanking him for the free guidance. Everything is going exactly as planned. Tiano laughs triumphantly, praising their flawless strategy and telling Chulio to move out, but Chulio stops him, ordering him to pour water on the torches to make them completely useless. With the torches now completely soaked, Tiano grins wickedly, realizing Chulio is deliberately sabotaging Ito. It seems like the guy will truly stop at nothing to win. Staring at Chulio's menacing expression, Tiano notes how ruthless he is when it comes to victory. Chulio walks ahead with supreme confidence, saying their only remaining task is to overtake Ao's group. They head deeper into the dark forest, with someone shouting that south is the way. Ligia bravely charges ahead, chopping down branches to clear a path, urging everyone to move faster. Ito supports a thoroughly exhausted Aimi. He thinks to himself that thanks to Foro, they managed to make up for all their lost time by taking the shortest possible shortcut. Watching from behind, Saga wonders if Ado actually chose Foro because he anticipated the risk of them getting lost. She looks at him with pure admiration, calling him amazing. Suddenly, a happy cry rings out as Foro's group spots their target. They cheer in relief, glad to have finally made it. But Sa suddenly gasps in shock, pointing toward the entrance. She looks closely at the devastating sight, crying out that the torches have all been completely extinguished. Furious, Ligia punches a nearby tree, swearing those jerks are playing dirty. Ito is equally angry, cursing their bad luck. He silently wonders if they should ask Amy to make some new torches, but a voice suddenly cuts in. Someone raises a hand, confidently stating there is no need, as they still have another option. With the night completely pitch black, a firm voice points out that moving forward like this is impossible. A hand glowing with power reaches out, as Ito confidently tells them to leave it to him. He raises his palm toward the sky, unleashing his full energy as he yells to activate his leisure skill. Saga and Foro watch in absolute shock as a glowing orb of light appears. Ito thinks to himself that he never expected this useless skill from his first playthrough to actually come in handy. Sa smiles, realizing they can move forward without torches now. Ito confidently declares it is time to press on. Meanwhile, another group is chasing after Ao. O screams out in sheer frustration, demanding to know what on earth is going on. He yells out in despair, realizing they ended up at the statue and took another wrong turn. Panic-stricken, he wonders how they will ever escape this dungeon. An echo responds, saying they are back at Area 3 after passing Area 4. Gasping for breath, Coolio and Tiano collapse in exhaustion, realizing this place is a massive maze. Coolio demands to know how they can possibly find the exit, while Sa stands before a statue, noting this is the starting point. The group reaches the hub but hesitates. Someone asks which way to go, given there are 3 different paths. Ito stares ahead, explaining they will never reach the exit of this dungeon unless they make the right choice every single time. Accessing his past memories, he explains that during his very first playthrough, his entire squad failed to navigate this maze and got instantly disqualified. Ito confidently adds that he knows exactly how to conquer this labyrinth. He calls out, asking Foro if this statue is modeled after the Orion constellation. Foro confirms without hesitation, explaining Orion is the giant from Greek mythology. He goes on explaining that his father is a master hunter, making smile and say it is finally Foro's turn to shine. He confidently tells everyone to follow the paths by connecting the stars just like a constellation. Saw gasps in absolute shock, trembling as she asks if that is really the trick behind this entire labyrinth. Even Foro starts getting scared now, his voice shaking as he speaks. What exactly do you mean by that, he asks. But O just speaks up clearly. That is right, if it is Foro, he can guide us all the way to the exit. Pointing toward the path, Foro happily explains that if the first area is right here, then that direction must be the correct way. Seeing his determination, O agrees and tells everyone to follow Foro's lead. Lai happily runs over to grab Foro's shoulder, cheering that he is so glad they are traveling together. Watching them walk ahead, Sa cannot help but wonder if O chose this specific team because he planned everything out in advance. O yells out coldly that if it is them, they will definitely win. Time to move. As they press on, he holds out his hand and says they are making great progress. After walking for a while, they spot a statue in the distance. Foro points straight at it and gasps in shock, telling them to look at the number 8, because this must be the final one. Lai points toward the tunnel with a smile, saying there is only one hallway left and their destination is right at the end. Nulby looks at Foro warmly, thanking him because they never would have made it this far without him. But Foro looks at O with pride, saying they never would have survived if O had not solved the labyrinth's trick. Noticing Amy's strange expression, O frowns and asks what is wrong. Amy stares at the statue and points out a key over there, but as everyone looks toward it, a dark, ominous presence suddenly starts to emerge. Amy confidently says that once they pass through, they are done. And there are still 3 stones left. Lai looks at O with determination, cheering that they are in the lead and actually made it. O steps up to take a stone, thinking to himself that they have finally surpassed O's group and victory is theirs. Suddenly, Lai yells out in confusion because it will not open, prompting Sei to bend down and inspect it. Staring at the lock, O realizes they need a physical key to open it. Amy looks at the key she is holding, hoping it will work, and nervously tells them she will try to unlock it right now. Her hands tremble as she tries to unlock it, but she gasps because it is not budging. Saw looks at Amy suspiciously, wondering if it is the wrong key. Then, out of nowhere, a thick white mist wraps around Foro's leg. And just like that, everything goes completely sideways. Foro screams for help as he is yanked up. O watches in absolute horror as a massive, monstrous spider dangles his friend upside down. Amy and Lai scream out in panic while Saw urgently suggests they all blast it with magic to take it down. But O immediately stops them, yelling that a wild magical attack might end up hitting Foro too. Saw looks at O in sheer terror, asking what they should do. Suddenly, O remembers encountering this exact creature in his past life. It had breached their supply depot back then, triggering absolute chaos. But his captain, Glenn, knew exactly how to handle it. Glenn had ordered them to throw open the warehouse doors because the beast hates bright light. As the memory fades, O grows incredibly anxious. Amy reaches for the 8th stone, realizing this is their only chance. Holding the key, she thinks that if she can just fuse this glowing sphere with the key, she might be able to craft a key of pure light. Dangling helplessly in the air, Foro desperately begs O to save him. Without a moment of hesitation, Yo unleashes his skill, Pride, throwing a blazing orb of light forward with every bit of strength he has left. Take this. The blinding orb flashes right in front of the spider, completely catching it off guard. O looks up, relieved that his theory about its weakness was correct, but the beast suddenly unleashes dark energy to counter the light. So points and screams that the spider is somehow absorbing the glare. Someone gasps that the light is fading fast. As O grinds his teeth in anger, suddenly realizes this is why he recruited Aimi, the crafting expert. She emotionally realizes that O is an absolute genius who plans out every single tiny detail, but suddenly Lai points upward in sheer panic, yelling that the spider is crawling even closer to Foro. If this keeps up, Foro is completely done for. Having no other options left, O can only glare at the beast in pure helpless rage.